So we have 20 minutes only to learn something about fundraising, to make our life easier as fundraisers. And I want to say a big thank you for everyone to join and to take the time to actually think about fundraising, take advice, and change the way we fundraise. So today's theme is the fundraising ecosystem. The general idea of an ecosystem is to show how we are not alone. We are not working in a vacuum. We are part of a huge system, a big system. And when we realize that, it makes our job much easier. So actually, for those who knows, today it's the 19th of Kislev, which is Rosh Hashanah Chassidut. One of the big things that the Chassidut explain, and in general in the Torah and everywhere, it's how one action I do today here could impact somebody else in a different place, different country. So this whole idea brings humanity together, unify the people, and shows how you are a small part of a big puzzle. And that's the idea of an ecosystem, especially when we talk in the fundraising terms and fundraising world. And now, of course, the big question is when we realize that we are part of this big ecosystem, is how we can, based on that knowledge, what do we do to make this healthy ecosystem a place where fundraising is natural, a seamless story of movement and exchange. Because at the end, when we're going to learn today is that fundraising is not only about taking, donating is not only about giving, but it's all part of a big system that makes our world survive and strive. So we are used to ecosystem when we speak about nature, trees and plants and agriculture. And the idea is that every single thing that grows is important. Today people are very worried about the bees. The bees disappear, the whole ecosystem can collapse. Now, it's very hard to explain to someone, to a child, to even to an adult that are not familiar with it. Why does the system will collapse? If bees are not something we enjoy, especially when they sting and this. And when you know how things work, you understand clearly why one element could make a whole system collapse or make a whole system greater if it's the way we deal with it. And this is the same thing when we talk about in general non-profit organization, and especially when we have the role of fundraising in that organization. So the problem with most fundraising, we are focusing on our budget. We have an agenda. Actually, I have a personal story. I was talking with an organization, and I pushed him to call a donor, and he did call the donor, and the guy was driving, and the guy said, "I can't speak now. I'm driving." So the guy in the other, the fundraiser said, "Okay, when can I call you? When can I call you back? Tonight, tomorrow?" And he's telling me how the guy on the phone got upset. He said, "How can you schedule a meeting with me when I'm driving?" So of course, anyone that hears that could relate in a certain way, because when we are in the fundraising field, one of the big fear is rejection. What about if I call the guy on the wrong moment, and because of that, I break my relationship with him? And this is like the most catastrophic thing that could happen for a fundraiser, and this is what happened in that case. And unfortunately, the story doesn't have a good end. Actually, the story is not finished yet, so it's in the middle. But the point is that I'm not saying that the donor was right or the fundraiser was wrong. It doesn't really matter. But we find a situation when one person has an agenda. I need to raise money, and then in a way is missing a very important element, which is what it's not only about me getting the money, but it's an exchange that I'm doing with the donor. So in this specific case, I mean, it was a bit extreme. The guy was driving. Nobody told you to answer the phone when you're driving. And if you answer the phone and you say I'm driving, then continuing with a question should not break any relationship. But this is basically what happened. So too much pressure, long-term thinking. This is all things, exhausted leaders. This is all things that when we focus on the fundraising itself as a one thing, then you most of the time you get to that position where it's pressure on yourself, pressure on the donors, pressure on the organization. They need the money, and it puts pressure everywhere. And usually the results are not so great. Now, if you want to shift to a healthy ecosystem, we have to build, of course, relationship. We have to build meaning, purpose. And it's something that we build over time, and we get to a point that people want to give. It's not that they're making you a favor. It's maybe they're making themselves a favor. And this is one of the most important message I want to give over today. So this is a text in Hebrew. I will translate everything. From a book, it's called Kuntras Umayan. And this book is explains something very interesting in human nature. It says like that. We know that people are looking for pleasures. That's the word, you grow, you want to have a good life. So in a certain point is in Hebrew, we call ta'anug, a pleasure. Everybody is looking for the same thing. Each one has a different way how to get to it, but we all center around the same thing, most of us. And the Kuntras Umayan will explain something very powerful. He says, there is levels of pleasure in the world. The physical pleasures are the lower pleasures, easy to achieve. Okay, you see a good cake, you eat it, you have pleasure, you're happy, you eat the good cake, and it's very easy. But we know that it's not a pleasure that will change your life. And then, as you go, the more spiritual the pleasure is, the higher it is, the pleasure is bigger, is more intense, and could have a bigger impact on your general life. And the way the Kuntras Umayan we break down the levels is going from animal pleasures, so eating, sleeping, playing, I don't know, watching videos, whatever it is. And then you go for a more spiritual pleasure, by example, the music. Music, he says, music is a spiritual pleasure that actually people will pay more to go to a concert, the philharmonic concert. People are spending a lot of money just to listen to one nice voice and one nice music. People will put a whole band, a whole event just to listen to one guy singing. So Kol Arev in Hebrew, which is a nice voice, a nice music. This is a higher level of pleasure. And then we get to the third level of pleasure, which is emotions. And the example that he brings here is in Hebrew, it's called Midat Hatov Ve'achesed, good and kindness. When someone do kindness, this is part of the life pleasures. And it's actually higher than any physical pleasure. It's like how much you're ready to pay to go to a good restaurant. So someone that has a lot of money, I pay $500, $1,000, completely fine if it's a good restaurant. Now, next level is how much you pay to go to a concert. Oh, I want the VIP place, I will pay $2,000. Third level, how much will you pay to have the pleasure of giving? Oh, I will pay $3,000. So it's also almost as if you say that someone that makes a donation is not donating anything, is actually paying for a pleasure, which is the donation itself is a pleasure. And there is one condition, it's not really a condition, but the Kuntras Umayan will bring two ways of expressing this kindness. One way is to have only emotional pleasure, And the second is to mix the emotional pleasure with your brain, with your intellect, with your understanding why you give. And that's obviously, it becomes not an animal pleasure, but it becomes something much higher. So what we learn here is that giving is one of the biggest pleasure of someone. Our job as fundraiser is to facilitate giving, but more than that, to bring a intellectual aspect to the giving. Meaning, I know you enjoy giving, but why do you give to me? Why not to someone else? It's because, and that's when my job starts, is to explain. So when the person gives, he doesn't give just from the emotion, which in itself, that will technically be enough. Let's say $3,000 will justify the price, justify the pleasure of giving emotionally. But now when you get to giving emotionally with a reason behind, that costs much more money, because the pleasure is much bigger also, and that will justify a $10,000 donation. So it's a all new way of looking at fundraising, and a all new way of looking at donating. That was brought by this amazing Hasidic book, which called Kumchas Mayan. Now, based on that, we're gonna do some little game, and we're gonna use Charidy to be a memo technique to help us get a few practical technique on how to improve our fundraising. So first of all, we understand that people don't give to organization, because an organization, it's not a human being. Relationship is between humans. So people will give to what the organization does, or who's behind this organization. Because at the end, chesed, as we mentioned before, is kindness. It's not kindness to an organization, it's kindness to people. We never saw chesed, kindness, to give to an entity, an address or walls or a building. That's not kindness. Kindness is when you help someone else. Giving is emotional before it is logical. Okay, once again, let's go back to C, community, H, heart. So it is emotional before it gets logical. And that's why we need to focus, we need to understand that and to address that when we speak to people. If we go too much in numbers, we kind of killing the emotional aspect of the donation. A for action. So emotions is amazing, but we need, of course, to be organized. I put down a few easy tasks. Clear ask. This is something very essential in fundraising. You don't always tell the person how much you want him to donate, but you always need to have an amount in your head, because at the end, people read between the lines. Clear timing, clear role, show people how to help, not just why. So it's a combination of emotion, understanding, and taking it to action. Relationship, I would say this is probably the most important thing. As fundraiser, it's very hard, because we fight for the organization, knowing that the person doesn't give to the organization but give to people. So of course, when we fight for the organization, we fight for the people that are being helped by this organization. But at the end, we are the main person that the donor know. So the relationship between the donor and the fundraiser is essential. Inspiration. This is also very, very important. We need to be able to say our vision. I put a little note here, Torah moments, and Torah means meaningful moments. For anyone could mean something else. But this is something recently I did encourage many organizations to not only meet the donor once a year when they need to ask for a donation. I mean, this is everybody does that. They don't have a choice. But what do you do between, you know, December 2025 and December 2026? So depends what the organization is about. Uh, Maybe this donor is someone that comes to the organization every week or every month. If that's the case, so then you have the solution. The person is donating, he's actually part of the organization. But many times we seek for donors that are not directly involved in the organization. And we have a big problem because we ask them for a donation, and let's say they give it, and then we wait for 1 year, and the next year we ask for another donation. And we don't feel comfortable, even if many times the donor will repeat his donation. But us as fundraiser, we always have this discomfort. We are not very excited about this idea of contacting someone only to ask for a donation. And the solution is to change that, actually, to make a monthly meeting with our donors, individual meeting when we can discuss family. Again, I put here Torah. That's a great way to connect with people. And the donor should know that when you meet him, it's not for his donation. You can tell clearly to the donor, you tell him, look, we got to talk about the donation in December 2026. Now you made you pledge for this year. Like now the donation aspect should be out of the conversation. I want to meet you once a month to discuss meaningful ideas, to help you with your children or whatever you feel you can help. And basically the idea is not about how you go to help, is that every person has something to give. And if this donor has money and this is what he has to give you, and I'm sure he has much more than money, you don't have the money and he doesn't need your money, but you have something that you can give him. As long as you didn't find what you have to give him, you're missing something. You need to find something you can give him, and then the all fundraising and donation part will be completely different because, like we said before, in general, donating is an exchange. But when you can actually put that in practice, where you also give to the donor, then it brings out this idea much stronger. Charidy, we are to the D. There is 2 letters left. Dedication. This is a very technical aspect of campaigns or fundraising, but consistency. Campaign every year. I always suggest to organization, whatever they do, if it's a gala, if it's a campaign, if it's a raffle, you need to be consistent. Donors should expect when it comes to that date, that you will sometimes around this date, you will reach out to them about the donation. And that's very important because they kind of prepare this donation and they can think about you during the year, knowing that in December you will call them for a donation. And sometimes I even heard people putting money aside for the call you're going to make. That could happen only if your campaigns are very regular and always in the same time of the year. Why? It's obviously the yes mindset. At the end, we know that whatever we do, we facilitate. The donor wants to give, the organization, hopefully you work in an organization that is worth it. And above all, we have a God, Hashem, that is the one to decide whatever dollar goes to which account. And when we have that in mindset, we can be excited to be part of this ecosystem. We have to no negativity, always positive. You make a call, you get a rejection from someone. Don't say, okay, I'm stopping for today. It was too hard. No, you go, you break yourself, and you go and you continue like nothing happened. And now for the end of this session, I'm going to move this. Oh, it's okay. The $1 million question. Sit at your desk, look at your list. Okay, as a fundraiser, we are often in that situation. We have the list, you have the computer, you have the fund, we have a project, and now we need to fill the time. We need to move to action. Take a breath, close your eyes, and think about this. I know what my donor gives me. Yeah, you have a list, how much he gave last year, how much he gave 2 years ago, how much he gave 3 years ago, how much he can give, how much this, what's my budget, all the numbers and this and this. All the numbers are amazing. But the $1 million question is like that. What do I give them? And if you don't have an answer for that, it's terrible. And if you don't even ask yourself this question, it's even more terrible. And I have a little story I want to share with you. One of the organizations I was dealing with, the guy tells me he's in charge of a school, and next door there is he's in charge of a girls' school, and next door it's a boys' school from the same community. So the parents have daughters and sons, and they go in the same. And the boys' school makes a campaign, and the guy tells me, I'm looking at the donor, and I know every single donor, almost every single donor. And it's not only I know them, I reach out to them multiple times a year. How come they give $50 to the boys' school, and to me they don't even give anything? So I told him, look, it's maybe because they know the people from the boys' school better, the board or the fundraiser. He said, no, they don't know him. Just the guy sitting. He's mentioning a name. He said, this guy is sitting next to him in the shul, in synagogue. Is that a justification to give 50,000 to a school because you sit next to him? And when he told me that, I understood that was the main thing that we're missing over here. If someone sits next to someone else in a synagogue, in shul, it's because he's enjoying the time he spends with this guy. And this, in today's society, especially the more we go AI and tech and this, a human relationship with someone is the most valuable thing we can have. And you give me the answer, because this guy, he's getting from his friend a 1 hour human relationship every week or every month, and that's what he gives him. That's the exchange. And now when it comes to the campaign, he gives $50,000. But you decide picking up the phone and asking for money, you don't do anything. You don't even ask to meet the donor. You're scared of it, of course I know. You're scared to meet and you don't have anything to say. So how can you expect him to give you even $1? So that's a little story that describes a little bit what we learned today. And it's one story that happens every day. It's nothing comes from nowhere. There is a work to do. And now the question, final diagnostic, is your ecosystem healthy? Do donors feel meaning? Do volunteers feel honored? We didn't speak too much about volunteers today. Leadership feel focused? Does giving feel natural or forced? All this is few questions you can ask yourself. And if you have the right answers, then I can almost guarantee you're going to have an amazing time fundraising, and you're not anymore a fundraiser. Okay, so I wanted to add some AI in our discussion, because today, if you don't do AI, you're kind of missing something. So we have the AI dose of the day. We are not fundraisers. We are architects of generosity, one of the highest level of pleasure. When the day we realize that, first of all, we act differently, and we go to work with a different energy, and we should enjoy being in the four walls of our office. But even more than that, we should enjoy going out of these four walls and meet our people, not to ask them for a donation, to ask them how they go, how they do, to sit with them and learn something interesting, to help the children, the parents or the cousins or whatever need they have that you can solve, And if you don't believe you can solve someone's need, that's a different webinar we will do maybe one day. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy.